Microsoft's pathway to buying ABK just hit several more potholes. I know what you're thinking. Nobody sued to try to stop Microsoft from buying ABK in like 10 days. Well, no, actually, that's not true. And it's time to just kind of condense some of these things because a couple of things have popped up in the last, about 4 days or so as Microsoft continues to try to weasel and navigate through the courts and everything else. So late last week, we got word that Google was piling on to the FTC and writing letters and everything else that they would do to try to block the ABK deal in the United States, or at least airing of their grievances. Now, Google was somewhat known because of things that have happened with Stadia. Here's my controller that will conveniently use Bluetooth soon. And they've piled in on that and said, look, Microsoft buying ABK is only going to hurt platforms like us trying to launch cloud stream gaming and all that good stuff. The other new entrant into this sort of conglomerate going up against Microsoft is NVIDIA. Now, when you hear NVIDIA, it's a little interesting because we hadn't heard that name previously, but they do have a cloud game streaming service, and they're not very happy about it. So Google and NVIDIA provided information supporting Microsoft's unfair advantage in the cloud subscription and mobile gaming market to the FTC, according to various reports. NVIDIA emphasized the need for equal and open access to game titles. Now, that sounds very similar, although it does seem like they are taking a more just general, broad approach, and it doesn't sound like they're calling out any specific title, although most things have revolved around Call of Duty. It says NVIDIA led the graphics market for gamers and operates a streaming service known as GeForce Now, and GeForce Now is the crux of their argument that they are concerned about when it comes to Microsoft buying ABK. Obviously, Google competes with Microsoft on various platforms. Gaming kind of sort of is one, but not so much anymore. But interestingly enough, Google was really bringing up the mobile operating systems and more specifically games in that arena. Typically, when you think of Google and games, you think of Stadia, but Google is coming out saying, look, mobile games can have a very serious impact on our market share as well because of Android and how popular it is. So there you go. Those two companies have piled on. And if that wasn't enough, the bigger news that is actually out today comes from Reuters, where Reuters has learned that the EU is going to file a statement of charge, as they call it in the EU. Now, this is an interesting one. It sounds like this might just be more of a formality based on if you kind of read through the tea leaves. So Microsoft was expected to offer remedies to the EU prior to them making a ruling. But as it turns out, according to this report, is that the EU was like, no, we don't really want to hear your remedies until we issue our statement of charge, and then you can issue your remedies, and we'll see if that really aligns to everything that we are concerned about. Now, there's two ways to interpret this. One is that the EU just really isn't interested in allowing Microsoft to buy ABK, but that's not the sense that I sort of get from this report. What I get, and honestly, it kind of feels like the FTC is the same way, is that these entities want to do something, right? You have one of the largest companies on the planet trying to spend a whole bunch of money to buy another really large company. They can't just sit back and be like, you know what, your arguments are kind of valid. We're just going to sign off on this. They feel in their soul and in their charge of operation that they should do something. And that's why you see the EU saying, look, we're going to issue a statement of charge, and then we can talk about remedies. That way we can at least say, look, Microsoft knelt before us and they, heeded to our demands. And that's sort of the vibe that I'm getting out of the EU and the FTC a little bit as well. Now, when you look at the things like Google, NVIDIA, Sony, the EU, and the FTC, I think the real takeaway from all of this is that getting this deal closed by June 30th it's going to be extremely tough, especially when you consider the fact that the FTC is not going to be sitting down with Microsoft in until August, something like that. So granted, Microsoft technically could try to ram this through earlier if they really wanted to. I believe so. I believe that's legal here in the United States. If they get the EU approval, be like, look, FTC, we're just going to kind of plow through. And remember, Microsoft has already kind of said that we don't think the FTC's court is valid. Their administrative court and only federal court is a thing. That's for lawyers to argue out. But either way, it looks like Microsoft's going to have a few more hiccups, more bad headlines probably coming through before things start to settle down and Microsoft can try to navigate the actual guideposts that are in front of them to get this deal done. It is far from over. There are still many things that could derail this. And it's just the latest chapter in what is going to be a very tough fought battle for Microsoft to get this done. But at the end of the day, it still feels like they can do it. It's just that these entities honestly, it just feels is like justify their existence and make sure that the world knows that the FTC and the EU commission committees all exist and that you have to abide by their rules. So there you go. That's sort of the latest in a nutshell. And if you want to stay updated on everything else happening in the world of Xbox and beyond, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the only BS on this channel is me.